everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptocurrent. Your host here, Richard Carthon. And today I have a extremely cool guest all the way out in Germany, but is headed to the States real soon for a conference that we are just missing each other on, which is ETH Denver. But he has been working on an extremely cool project called Autonomy Network. And we have the CEO, James. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's cool to be here. How are you doing?
Man, I'm great. Happy that the market is starting to recover a little bit, and there's a little bit of a light in the tunnel right now. So that is making the crypto bears start to warm up a little bit. So I like the optimism, but I digress. I want to learn a little bit more about you first. Can you give us some background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from the UK. Went to Canada for uni to study physics. Dropped out in my last year, which was like the last bull run. Because I saw all these people like building stuff, and people are raising billions of dollars, and people getting freaking hacked, and there's just so much going on. And I compared to the lab work that I was doing in one of the physics labs, it was just the pace of academia is just so slow, and so this is just like so much more exciting. And so I dropped out. My first job was in chain analysis, like a company like that. It wasn't chain analysis itself, but similar stuff, doing like tracking and de-anonymization for like the FBI and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Worked at Dapper Labs, building out Flow, implementing proof of stake on the blockchain. Just like a lot of like personal projects in between. My last job was at like a cross-chain DEX called Chainflip. They are going to launch soon, which is pretty cool to see. But I thought about this in like 2019, went to a hackathon at SF Blockchain Week. Got a prize for it, but didn't really do anything with it. And kind of after DeFi summer, it became like very clear that there was like a huge market for this, and it was like a real need, and that people would actually use it, if I built it. And yeah. Here we are.
Yeah, and I really want to spend some time on that. So like what's really cool about the business you've made is called Autonomy Network, and what you've created is a decentralized automation, limit orders, and stop losses on DEXes. So why is this really important? So for any of you who have ever been on like a Uniswap or Oneness Exchange, et cetera, and you know that you want to buy a particular crypto for a certain price. Let's say you want to buy Ethereum for $3,000. But of course, when you go on there, there's slippage, there's fees, there's all this other kind of stuff that ultimately brings that price a little bit lower. But you say you really want it at 3,000. So what you can do now is using Autonomy Network is be able to put in that price at 3,000, and then you're able to basically get that price. Now, do I have that right, or am I missing anything, James?
Yeah, no, totally. So like if the current price is like 4K, you can just set a limit order, kind of the same way you would in Binance or Coinbase or something. And, while you're asleep or offline or anything, like if the price dips to 3K, then your order will execute and you'll buy your ETH.
Man, that's awesome, man. Like, I mean, that is a huge feat that I don't know of any other company that's solved. How were you able to like conceptualize that this was a huge need in this space? And then how did you go about creating the solution?
The original idea came from a thing called GSN, which is a gas station network, which it's kind of fallen out of favor a bit the last couple of years. But the goal of it was to so users wouldn't need to pay gas in order to do a transaction. So it was like an easier way to onboard users into dApps. So they would just sign a transaction, and then someone else would pay the transaction fee. And I was just like curious about it, just reading. And I had a thought that they were always just immediately kind of relaying the transaction. Like as soon as they got, a signature, they, whoever the relayer was would, sign an actual transaction and pay the gas, etc. And I realized that they wouldn't have to send it immediately. They could send it like at some later time or, under any condition, really. But the way that GSN was doing it was kind of a bit of a centralized model. You would have to trust that they were going to send it in the right condition. So, in the case of limit order, when the price is below X or above X. So yeah, it just became I was just thinking about how to like generalize this because like limit orders is kind of one use case. But what's like really missing from the crypto space in general is like an automation protocol, an automation layer, because I mean, like DEXes are a big use case and probably certainly the most that's where most of the economic value is for a use case like this in terms of like volume, etc. But I mean, there's plenty of other stuff like automatically liquidating yourself before someone else liquidates you and avoiding the liquidation fee, or DAOs that can do that need to do like recurring payments for like salaries, or for just companies in general, or having like blockchain games with like NFTs that are like that actually do things on their own. Because like when you play a game with like Skyrim or Cyberpunk, like characters interact with you first, they interact with each other. They're not always just like sitting there waiting for you to interact with them first. And so like this is the first time that it's ever been possible to have like a true NPC in a blockchain game. But yeah, it was just like realizing that this thing was missing, and of course knowing that like once DeFi summer happened, that once DEXes like their volume started growing and growing, that it was like it was very apparent that now was the right time.
Yeah. You found it like you said, the timing is optimal. And as we continue to go through a bearish times, you're starting to see a lot more people who are not necessarily trading at higher volumes and are both going into more staking plays, but then also looking to buy into different projects they've been looking to get into at a really good price entry. And so a lot of places to go and get those price entries are on DEXes, and would have been a great time if you had been able to set limit orders a long time ago for price targets to have limit orders in place for something like this. So for anyone that is just hearing about this and is really curious about this, walk me through the process of how I come on and utilize this. If I want to potentially set like a limit order, let's say I've been watching Bitcoin, for example, for a long time, and I am strongly convicted in this example that, let's say I think that Bitcoin will eventually get back to 30,000. I want to put that limit order in place. How would I be able to do that?
Sure. So we're currently live on the EVM chains like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, etc. So you can't trade Bitcoin directly, but you can trade wrapped Bitcoin. So you can in effect do this. But you go to a DEX that has integrated us. There's a list on our website, autonomynetwork.io. Probably the one that supports the most like chains is autoswap.trade, AUTOSWAP.trade. Has like the main chains and everything. But yeah, you basically go to it. It's designed to be the same way as Uniswap. You connect your wallet, you select your tokens, like the from and to, input output tokens, like the amount you want to sell, the price that you want to trade at, and you just put in a limit order or a stop loss, and it's super easy.
Yeah, no, that is very user friendly. And again, I know that this is a tool that I personally been looking for a long time on a couple of different types of projects I've been looking to get into. So I will personally be utilizing this really soon. But my understanding is that you actually have some exciting news on the token aspect. That you are looking to launch a token soon. Can you give us a little bit more information on that?
Yeah. So like late this quarter, probably around March, we'll be doing a public token sale. We just kind of starting to build a community at this point, because we were very like heads down focused on being like B2B, like infrastructure for projects to integrate, and hadn't really focused on the community much. So now we're like publishing a lot more and just like, interacting in the community a lot more and trying to grow it, etc. So yeah, it'll be a token sale. I haven't decided like exactly where it'll be yet. It's probably on Copper launch, but TBD. It's kind of like a Dutch auction kind of style, so it's kind of immune from front runners and that kind of thing. So that's why we're looking at that.
Got it. Okay. And can you kind of talk about just a little bit of the tokenomics of like where the utility of the token will be and how it'll be utilized?
For sure. Yeah. So it's, in my totally unbiased opinion, an actual utility token, because it's needed in the network to actually function. So the way that autonomy works is that there's essentially like a registry smart contract and a decentralized network of bots who are monitoring that contract. So when a user puts in, for example, a limit order, they essentially make a transaction to our registry that says, I want this action to be taken under this condition, which is, sell X for Y at Z price. And this decentralized network of bots are constantly monitoring it in order to see when they can trigger it. And when they do, they get a small fee. But in order to prevent all of them trying to trigger the same request at the same time, there's essentially a proof of stake algorithm that's used in order to kind of say who can execute what at what time. And so these executor bots need to stake the token. And so if they have 10% of the staked tokens, then they'll be able to execute about 10% average of all like requests and get those 10% of overall fees. So it's essentially like the same tokenomics as ETH2, like proof of stake, or I mean even really proof of work. Like it's needed in order to run the kind of consensus as well as it's a very lightweight consensus, but anyway, in order to do the staking as well as users can also get a discount on the fee if they pay in our token. So it's paying the fee and staking. So basically a standard like POS tokenomics.
Right. No, thank you for breaking that down. Like you said, I'm glad that the utility of what it'll be used for within your ecosystem checks out and makes a lot of sense for it, and should have a lot of value for everyone who is coming on and using the Autonomy Network. But I also believe that you have a potential gaming play as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we're just about to announce this. We've been kind of like slowly building this over the last couple of months. It's essentially a blockchain game called Meta Dungeon, and it's kind of the first ever kind of PvE, which means like player versus environment blockchain game. Because like all blockchain games to date, have mostly been not really games. They're like gamified yield farms. Yeah. And they're all like PvP, like you battle people, or like you're just grinding and like farming stuff, in the case of like Axie Infinity with the love potion thing. But yeah, the thing is, like with autonomy, we can create contracts and NFTs that can do things for themselves. Like they can create their own transactions. And so we can create autonomous NFTs that are essentially like players in this game that interact with you first. So the first stage of the game that we're going to release is there's just going to be like one boss in this dungeon, which is essentially a dragon, and it transfers itself to other people's wallets. So if it transfers itself to your wallet, you'll be able to fight it. And if it's not in your wallet, you'll be able to summon it by like collaborating with other players, also by like sacrificing some NFTs in order to like summon it if you can't collaborate with other people, which makes it the first like team play blockchain game that's ever existed, which seems like it may be a recipe for virality or for like instigating kind of a new wave of blockchain games. Well, that's a hope at least. But
yeah. No, that is unique, right? That you basically you're forced to start collaborating because, like you said, most of the focus right now is me versus you, or me trying to do a bunch of activities to then be rewarded for said activities. But now, if you look at the big games that have been pretty successful, it's the ones where you yourself grow grow your own character, but then also being able to collaborate and work with one another. How do you think with how this is set up, do you think people will initially be resistant to having to collaborate with others, or do you think people will be more inviting and will kind of flock to it? So obviously the premise is that they will come to it, but do you think because this is kind of changing the dynamic that you might be met with some friction initially?
I think so. I mean, with any kind of new like technology or style of things like it, there's going to be some like road bumps for sure. I mean, the thing is like because all the automation is like fully on chain, there needs to be a way for the selection of like who you collaborate with. I should give a bit of slight more context. basically like every day you'll be kind of paired with another person. We're going to increase this to like 5 and 10 people versions in the future, but just to start with, just for simplicity, it's just one person in order to summon this dragon. And the thing is, like, the blockchain only knows about addresses, and so you need some way to like find that person and communicate with them. So we're kind of including like essentially a Twitter tool. So you essentially announce like, I am, this player in the game, like DM me, like, to collaborate, which may end up kind of setting Twitter on fire, but I don't know, they're kind of funny. But
that'd be great.
I think there's definitely like friction in that aspect, but I mean, it's also kind of fun because it's like the first time that something like this has happened where you have to like go out on a mission to do this investigation yourself in order to like play this game. So it's like, it has these levels, so to speak, to it that aren't in the kind of on the blockchain side of things, but are necessary in order to do the blockchain side of things, which, I don't think it's ever been done before.
It's interesting. And I know a lot of people are going to want to check that out, especially listening to this. For those who are hearing this and are like, yeah, that sounds amazing. I want to be a part of that. Where can they find that?
So we haven't decided if we're going to put it as a separate website yet, but like the info or like links to it will definitely be on our website, autonomynetwork.io.
Got it. Perfect. Well, again, you have a couple of different aspects within the crypto space that I think a lot of people are starting to pay more attention to. Again, the utilization of DEXes, the ability to where GameFi is going and being built more on the blockchain, and how that has been adapting and growing over time. But like, as you look across 2022, as we are just beginning this year, what do you think will define the year of 2022? Do you think it's going to be the year of GameFi? Do you think the year of the Metaverse? Do you think it's the year of DEXes? Like, where do you think as an industry, the crypto space is headed as it relates to the next, let's call it, 10 months?
Oof. That's a good question. I think despite about to launch a Metaverse game, I think the Metaverse and kind of NFT side of things are extremely like overhyped, and it's very, very like red hot right now, and it's probably unsustainable to keep it up to that intensity for the rest of the year. I think like DeFi is it's kind of reached a bit of an equilibrium where it's like it's not quite as crazy as DeFi summer in terms of like the percentage of the overall like market or kind of like mind space in crypto that it's taking up. But I think it's certainly going to continue. I think like the Metaverse side of things will. It's tough to say because I think we are at the point with the Metaverse area where we were with DeFi in 2017. Like there's a lot of like hype and a lot of projects like raising, but like very little has actually been built. And right. So I think like it's not going to be as anywhere near as fast as people like hope. It's going to take years, like a solid, 2, 3, maybe 4 years in order for kind of any of the promises that people, are talking about like right now in order to be fulfilled. I mean, people think like DAO tooling. I've heard some people say that 2022 is the year of the DAOs, but it's tough to say. I don't know. That wasn't really a straight answer, but I think it's. I don't think it's really going to be dominated by one thing. To be honest, I think like Metaverse is going to take too long to actually come into its own, and DAOs are still have a long way to go in terms of tooling.
Yeah. No, it still gives some perspective on some of the different things to be looking out for. It sounds like you're still pretty bullish on DeFi, but it's kind of like you said, it's kind of as equilibrium where it's not going to have such exponential growth, but it's still going to have a potential solid year. Right. Whereas NFTs and Metaverse is NFT cannot potentially sustain the amount of hype that it's had. It might have to cool off a little bit. And Metaverse is as excited as everyone is. It's just going to take time to build. So definitely appreciate that insight and that feedback, man. But again, you've given us a lot of really good information, a lot of different ways that people can utilize the tools that you are creating. But I always like to wrap up with two fun questions. With all the information that you've gathered throughout the years of being in crypto and all the things that you've built and all the experience that you have across all the different companies you have, if you go impart 1 to 2 pieces of wisdom to yourself when you first got started and you were working at the company that was when you were first getting into this space, right? What would you tell yourself? Chain analysis.
I think to really just like focus on building and not get as like distracted by the market, which is great in the crypto winter because all the people who are there are like the real ones who are there for the love of the tech. But yeah, I think focus on building. And if you have an idea or something, like one of my kind of regrets is about not starting Autonomy sooner, because I like I mentioned that I had the idea in like 2019, went to a hackathon, got a prize, whatever, and I thought like with pretty much just as much conviction, like this is like a very useful thing. It's just that like the market, I was working for Dapper at the time as well, so I was like distracted with other things. But yeah, like if you're convinced that there is use for something, then the best time to build is like before it's needed, so that when it is needed, you're ready to just like hit the ground running, so to speak, in the market. Yeah.
That's good. That is 2 solid gems. So focus on the process and the journey of building, and don't get distracted by all the noise that's out there, because there's plenty of it and it's not going to ever stop. And then if you have conviction on something that could be built that you think you can do, or see a company that's doing it and you want to be a part of it, take the leap if you really have that conviction. So really appreciate those 2 pieces of insight. But as we wrap up here, James, what is a final thought that you want to leave with all the listeners today?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I just I want people to check out the game that we're about to launch, Meta Dungeon, because one of the things I didn't mention actually is that what we're really trying to capitalize on is composability, which is kind of the ability for one blockchain thing to kind of like build on top of others. And so we're essentially like exactly which NFTs this will change like every few days as we kind of choose different projects. But essentially, while you're fighting this dragon or all these other bosses that we'll release like after, we can add in the ability to get power-ups like while fighting this boss by just holding like NFTs from other projects, like Bored Apes, Loot Project, for example, these kinds of things. And I think that's going to be a really, really like critical kind of inflection point in like metaverse games, because I think it'll be the first time that a project is really focused on something I call incentivized community merging, or self-incentivized community merging, where like if you say that you need like an NFT from Loot Project, in order to like have a power up to like fight this thing, then like all your users like go to that project, buy it or whatever, or collaborate with the people there, and all the people in that project, watch what you're doing and like paying attention and like learn about the project. And so you get, and then ideally like actually play the game. And so you can like target like specifically like one at a time these different communities, and just like one by one, just like merge them. I mean, it's not going to be like 100%, but at least to like a solid degree. And I think that's something like that has never been done before. And I think it's going to create like these incredible network effects. And like, I have no idea how it's going to turn out, to be honest with you. It's extremely experimental, but I think it has the potential to be to kind of like kick off a new wave of blockchain gaming that's kind of been this like promised thing of, you know, you can like, oh, we can all build in the same universe. But like if you actually look at blockchain games, like very few people are, you know, Axie Infinity doesn't touch any other blockchain games. And that's pretty much the case for like the main ones. And so hopefully like in the model that we have, if it can work in a sustainable way and like actually does, you know, generate all these network effects, then I think it's going to be like a catalyst for other projects to do the same. And then we really hopefully we'll start to see kind of some of the promises of metaverse gaming at least like come to fruition. And so yeah, I don't know. That's what excites me about this project in particular. So.
No, which is really cool. And you are definitely trying to be an innovator and trendsetter in this space. And someone's got to put it out there to see how the market's going to receive it and hopefully work with it. And once it's a success, we start seeing this as the first domino that keeps falling to keep bringing us closer to the gaming future that we all want to see. So, James, really definitely appreciate that. Thanks for the final thought. What are ways that people can connect with you and keep learning more about everything going on with Autonomy Network?
Yeah, just our website and Twitter at Autonomy Network, AUTONOMY Network, and autonomynetwork.io. Like join our Discord. That's like where we like do a lot of communication along with like Twitter. Yeah, I'd say they're the main places to get the announcements and get the alpha before everyone else.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here first, everyone. Make sure you go and check that out. James, again, we really appreciate all your time today. And for everyone listening, stay cryptocurrent.